The distant stars held their secrets close, but humanity had finally caught a whisper. The signal came from a system 30 light-years from Earth, a perfect sequence of prime numbers that could only be artificial. After decades of searching the cosmos for intelligent life, the discovery shook the foundations of human civilization, but no one could have predicted what awaited them. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the bridge of the Valiant, Earth's most advanced exploration vessel, watching as the alien world grew larger in their view screen. The planet, designated HD 249c, hung like a jewel against the black velvet of space, its atmosphere swirling with purple and gold clouds that danced in patterns unlike anything seen on Earth. "Final approach vector calculated," announced Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station. "We'll enter orbit in approximately 47 minutes. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the growing sphere before them. After 3 years of cryosleep and another 6 months of careful approach, they were finally here. The weight of humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization rested heavily on her shoulders. "Dr. Morrison, what's the latest on those atmospheric readings?" she called out to their xenobiologist. "Fascinating stuff, Commander," Morrison replied, his fingers dancing across his holographic display. "The atmosphere is breathable, though slightly denser than Earth's. What's really interesting are these energy signatures we're picking up from the surface. They're like nothing we've ever seen before." The Valiant carried Earth's finest, 20 specialists chosen from among millions of candidates, each an expert in their field. They represented humanity's best chance at making a peaceful first contact, but all their training and preparations couldn't have readied them for what they were about to discover. The first sign that something was different came when they detected the scale of the structures on the surface. Cities sprawled across continents, but the buildings dwarfed anything on Earth. Initially, they assumed it was merely a different architectural style, but as they began receiving clearer readings, the truth emerged. "Commander," Morrison's voice cracked slightly, "you need to see these biosignature readings." Sarah moved to his station, and her eyes widened as she processed the data. The dominant species on this world averaged 6 meters in height. The implications were staggering, not just technically advanced aliens, but giants by human standards. They called themselves the Astridians, as Sarah and her crew would soon learn. Their first transmission came just as the Valiant established orbit. The alien faces that appeared on their view screen were both beautiful and intimidating. Humanoid, but with iridescent skin that shifted colors like the aurora borealis, and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of millennia. The Astridians were a matriarchal society that had achieved peace thousands of years ago. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's, but they had chosen to wait, watching and evaluating younger civilizations before making contact. Humanity's arrival at their doorstep had forced their hand. As Sarah led the first shuttle down to the surface, she couldn't help but feel like a child approaching a city of giants. The Astridian greeting party waited for them in a vast plaza, their tall forms casting long shadows in the alien sunlight. The lead diplomat, Zara Ven, stood nearly 7 meters tall, her ceremonial robes flowing like liquid starlight around her form. "Welcome, children of Earth." Zara Ven's voice resonated in perfect English, their advanced translation technology making communication seamless. "We have watched your progress with great interest." Sarah stepped forward, her head held high despite feeling increasingly small. "On behalf of humanity, we thank you for this welcome. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." What happened next would change the course of both civilizations forever. As Sarah and Zara Ven began the formal diplomatic exchange, something unexpected occurred. The Astridians' bioluminescent skin began to pulse with patterns of light, a sign their xenobiologists would later learn indicated strong emotional resonance. "There is something about your kind," Zara Ven announced, her voice filled with wonder. "A resilience we have not seen in any other species we have encountered. Perhaps this is why the prophecies spoke of small ones from distant stars." The human crew exchanged glances, prophecies, but before they could inquire further, Zara Venn revealed the real reason for their interest in humanity. The Astridians were facing a crisis. Despite their advanced technology and peaceful society, they were dealing with a genetic bottleneck that threatened their species' future. Their scientists had detected something unique in human DNA, something that could potentially save their race. As the alien sun set on their first day on this new world, Sarah found herself in a vast chamber filled with holographic displays of both human and Astridian genetic sequences. The similarities were impossible, yet there they were. Two species evolved on different worlds, yet somehow compatible at a fundamental level. "Commander," Morrison whispered, his face pale with realization. "Do you understand what this means? It's not just first contact anymore. We're looking at the potential for something unprecedented in human history." Sarah nodded slowly, watching as Zara Venn conversed with her scientific council. The implications were enormous, and the responsibility even greater. They had come seeking knowledge and friendship, but fate had dealt them a hand that would reshape the future of both species. As she prepared her first report to Earth, Sarah struggled to find the right words to explain their discoveries. How could she convey the magnitude of what they had found? How could she explain that humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization might lead to something far more profound than anyone could have imagined? The stars twinkled overhead through the transparent dome of the Astridian Council Chamber, ancient light that had traveled years to reach them. Somewhere out there, Earth waited for news of their mission. Sarah took a deep breath and began to compose her message, knowing that every word would be scrutinized by generations to come. The first chapter of humanity's greatest adventure had begun, and no one could predict where it would lead. The weeks following first contact transformed into a whirlwind of discovery and cultural exchange. The Valiant's crew found themselves immersed in a civilization that challenged everything they thought they knew about technological advancement and social evolution. But it was Dr. James Morrison who found himself at the center of the most groundbreaking developments. In the towering laboratories of the Astridian Science Academy, Morrison worked alongside the alien geneticists, his expertise in xenobiology making him the natural choice for the genetic compatibility studies. The Astridian lead scientist, Zara Venn, sister to the diplomatic leader, towered over him as they examined the complex holographic displays of intertwining DNA strands. "Your species carries something remarkable within you," Zara Venn explained, her skin shimmering with patterns of academic excitement. "A genetic adaptability we haven't seen in any other race we've studied. It's as if your DNA was designed to evolve, to merge, to survive against all odds." Morrison found himself spending countless hours with Zara Venn, their scientific discussions extending well beyond genetics into philosophy, art, and the nature of consciousness itself. Despite their physical differences, he discovered an intellectual equal whose curiosity matched his own. The Astridians might have been technological giants, but they found human creativity and resilience equally fascinating. Meanwhile, Commander Chen faced challenges of her own. Earth's response to their discoveries had been mixed. While many celebrated the potential advances in medicine and technology that the Astridians offered, others voiced concerns about the genetic compatibility research. Conservative factions on both worlds began to speak out against the growing cooperation between the species. "They fear what they don't understand," Zara Venn observed during one of their daily meetings. "It was the same for us, long ago, when we first achieved unity among our own people." Sarah nodded, watching the massive holographic displays showing news feeds from Earth. Change frightens people, especially change of this magnitude. But we can't let fear stop progress. The Astridians had their own internal conflicts to manage. A segment of their population, led by the traditionalist elder matriarch Zara Venn, viewed the humans as primitive despite their potential. They argued that any genetic mixing would dilute their species' purity, threatening thousands of years of careful genetic cultivation. But as tensions rose in the political sphere, something unexpected was happening among the cultural exchange teams. Human artists collaborated with Astridian creators, producing works that merged their different perspectives of the universe. Scientists from both species made breakthrough after breakthrough. Their different approaches to problem-solving, creating solutions neither would have discovered alone. The turning point came 3 months into the mission. Morrison and Lissaraven's team made a stunning discovery. The genetic compatibility between humans and Astridians wasn't just a coincidence. It appeared to be the result of ancient engineering. Deep within both species' DNA lay markers that suggested deliberate design by some long-vanished civilization. Look at these sequences. Morrison pointed to a particular strand floating in the holographic display. They're like locks waiting for keys, and somehow our species each hold different parts of the solution. Lissaraven's skin pulsed with patterns of revelation. The prophecies of the stellar architects. Perhaps they weren't mere legends after all. The discovery sparked a new wave of cooperation and controversy. The Astridian archives spoke of ancient beings who had seeded the galaxy with life, creating species that would eventually come together to unlock greater mysteries. If humans and Astridians were part of this grand design, what did that mean for both their futures? In the midst of these developments, personal relationships between the species began to evolve in unexpected ways. Despite the vast physical differences, bonds formed that transcended the biological. Morrison and Lissaraven's intellectual partnership deepened into something more complex, challenging both societies' preconceptions about the nature of companionship. Commander Chen found herself navigating increasingly complex diplomatic waters. Earth's governments demanded faster access to Astridian technology, while the Astridian Council insisted on a gradual exchange to prevent cultural shock. The conservative factions on both sides grew more vocal, and rumors began to spread about secret genetic experiments. "We're standing at a crossroads," Sarah confided to her senior staff during a private meeting. "Everything we do here will set the tone for human-Astridian relations for generations to come. We have to get this right." The situation reached a critical point when Elder Matriarch Koraven called for an emergency session of the Astridian High Council. Her followers had been gathering evidence of unauthorized genetic research, claiming that certain scientists, including Lissaraven and Morrison, had moved beyond theoretical studies into practical applications. The accusation sent shockwaves through both communities. The possibility that human and Astridian scientists had already begun testing genetic compatibility without official approval threatened to unravel months of careful diplomacy. As the second quarter of their mission drew to a close, the Valiant's crew found themselves caught in a growing storm. The promise of their discoveries was matched only by the potential for conflict. Ancient prophecies, genetic destiny, and the fundamental nature of human-Astridian relations all hung in the balance. Morrison stood in his laboratory late one night, watching the alien sun set through the transparent walls. Lissaraven worked quietly beside him, her bioluminescence providing gentle illumination as darkness fell. "We've started something we can't stop," he said softly. "Haven't we?" Lissaraven's skin rippled with patterns of determination and concern. "Perhaps we were always meant to start it, James. The question now is whether our people are ready for what comes next." The next phase of their journey would test not just their scientific discoveries, but the very foundations of both societies. As the stars emerged in the alien sky, no one could predict the challenges that lay ahead, or the price they would all pay for progress. The discovery of unauthorized genetic research sparked a firestorm that threatened to consume everything the Valiant's mission had accomplished. Elder Matriarch Koraven's accusations had unleashed forces beyond anyone's control, and the consequences were spreading through both human and Astridian society like wildfire. Commander Sarah Chen found herself summoned to an emergency meeting with the Astridian High Council. The chamber, designed for the towering Astridians, made her feel more diminutive than ever, but she held her ground as accusations flew. "We have evidence that your scientists have been conducting forbidden experiments." Koraven's voice boomed through the chamber, her skin pulsing with patterns of righteous anger. "This is a violation of our most sacred laws." But before Sarah could defend her crew, something unexpected happened. Zaraven stepped forward, her massive form radiating authority. "Perhaps it is time we shared the full truth with our human allies." "Show them the prophecy chamber." The chamber fell silent. Even Cor-Aven's skin dulled in shock. The prophecy chamber was the most sacred place in Astridian civilization, forbidden to outsiders for millennia. Yet within hours, Sarah found herself descending deep beneath the surface of the planet, accompanied by Morrison, Lizaraven, and a select group of Astridian leaders. The chamber itself defied description. Ancient technology, far beyond even the Astridians' current capabilities, lined walls that seemed to stretch infinitely. Holographic displays activated automatically as they entered, showing star maps and genetic sequences that spiraled through the air like dancing ribbons of light. "Our ancestors did not build this," Zaraven explained, her voice hushed with reverence. "It was left here by the stellar architects, those who seeded our worlds with life. We are merely its guardians." As they watched, the chamber revealed its secrets. The stellar architects had not just seeded life, they had created a vast experiment spanning galaxies and millennia. Multiple species had been designed to eventually find each other, their genetic codes carrying different pieces of a greater whole. "Look at this sequence," Morrison breathed, studying a particular display. "It's showing the potential combinations of human and Astridian DNA, but it's not just about compatibility. These patterns, they're like keys unlocking something deeper." Lizaraven's skin rippled with patterns of scientific excitement. "The prophecies speak of a great awakening, when different children of the architects would come together. We always thought it was metaphorical, but what if it's literal? What if our species were designed to merge?" The implications were staggering. The genetic research that Cor-Aven had condemned might be exactly what the stellar architects had intended all along. But the revelations didn't stop there. The chamber showed more. Predictions of political upheaval, of resistance to change, and of a coming crisis that would test both species. Back on the surface, events were already in motion. News of the chamber's existence had leaked, causing chaos in both human and Astridian society. Conservative factions called for an immediate end to all contact between the species. Progressive groups championed the destiny revealed in the prophecies. Sarah found herself at the center of a growing storm. Earth's governments demanded explanations, while the Astridian Council fractured along ideological lines. But in the midst of the chaos, something remarkable was happening. Those who believed in the prophecies, both human and Astridian, began forming their own alliances. "We're witnessing the beginning of a revolution," Morrison observed, watching as mixed groups of humans and Astridians gathered in the streets below the Valiant's diplomatic quarters. Not with weapons, but with ideas. Lizaraven, standing beside him, her form towering but gentle, nodded. "The real question is whether we can guide this change, or if it will consume us all." The situation reached a critical point when Cor-Aven's followers attempted to seize control of the genetic research facilities. Their effort was thwarted not by force, but by an unprecedented show of unity between humans and Astridians. Scientists, diplomats, and citizens stood together, their differences forgotten in the face of a common cause. Sarah received an urgent communication from Earth. The UN Security Council had convened an emergency session to discuss the situation. Some nations were calling for the Valiant's immediate recall, while others insisted on maintaining contact with the Astridians at any cost. "We're not leaving," Sarah announced to her crew. "Whatever happens next, we're part of something bigger than ourselves now. The stellar architects chose our species for a reason, and we owe it to both our peoples to see this through." As if in response to her words, the prophecy chamber began showing new sequences. Morrison and Lizaraven worked tirelessly to decode them, and what they found changed everything. The genetic compatibility between humans and Astridians wasn't just about preservation or evolution. It was about unlocking abilities that neither species possessed alone. "Look at these projections." Morrison pointed to a complex diagram floating in the air. "The combination of our DNA could lead to capabilities we can barely comprehend. It's as if the architects left us a roadmap to becoming something greater than either of our species." But with this knowledge came danger. Other forces had begun to take notice of the situation on HD 249C. Strange signals were detected at the edge of the system, suggesting that humanity and the Astridians weren't the only ones interested in the Architect's legacy. As the third phase of their mission drew to a close, Sarah stood with Zaraven in the High Council chamber, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. "We're standing on the edge of something unprecedented," she said quietly. "Every choice we make from here on will affect both our species for generations to come." Zaraven's skin shimmered with patterns of determination and hope. "Perhaps that is exactly what the Architects intended, Commander. They gave us the ability to choose, but the courage to make those choices must come from within." The revolution had begun, not with violence but with understanding. Yet as night fell on HD 249, new challenges loomed on the horizon. The true test of both species' resolve, and the price of progress, was yet to come. The alien signals at the edge of the system grew stronger. The Valiant sensors detected multiple objects decelerating from faster-than-light travel, their energy signatures unlike anything in either human or Astridian databases. The legacy of the stellar architects had drawn attention from the depths of space, and not all of it was friendly. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Valiant's command center, watching as holographic displays tracked the approaching vessels. "How long until they reach orbit?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. 18 hours at current velocity, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "Their technology appears to be at least as advanced as the Astridians, possibly more so." The situation below wasn't any better. Core Event's followers had seized control of several major cities, demanding an end to all genetic research and the expulsion of humans from their world. The progressive factions, led by Zaraven and her allies, were barely maintaining order in the remaining regions. In the midst of this chaos, Dr. Morrison and Lissaraven made a breakthrough in the prophecy chamber. The ancient facility had revealed more than just genetic sequences. It contained warnings about others who sought the Architect's legacy, species that had found similar chambers on other worlds and twisted their knowledge for conquest. "The Architects didn't just create us," Morrison explained during an emergency council meeting. "They were preparing us for this moment. The compatibility between our species isn't just about evolution. It's about survival." The chamber's holographic displays showed terrifying images of worlds stripped bare by the approaching threat, civilizations that had failed to unlock their potential in time. The unknown vessels approaching HD 249C belonged to beings the Architects had dubbed the Harvesters, collectors of genetic potential who had perverted the Architect's vision of unity through force. Zaraven's skin pulsed with patterns of ancient memory. "There are stories in our oldest records, tales of dark times when our ancestors fought against creatures that came from the stars. We thought they were myths, but now, the revelation changed everything." Even Koraven's most ardent supporters couldn't ignore the threat approaching their world. The question was no longer whether humans and Astridians should cooperate, but how they could do so in time to face the coming storm. "The prophecy chamber shows a way," Lizaraven announced, her massive form trembling with excitement and fear. "But it requires something unprecedented, a true joining of our species, not just in theory but in practice, a fusion of genetics that will unlock the Architect's final gift. The process would be dangerous, untested, and would require volunteers from both species willing to risk everything." To everyone's surprise, Morrison stepped forward first. "I've studied these sequences more than anyone else," he said, looking up at Lizaraven. "I understand the risks, and I'm willing to take them." Lizaraven's skin blazed with patterns of devotion and determination. "Then we shall face this together, as the Architects intended." The procedure took place in the heart of the prophecy chamber, using technology that had waited millennia for this moment. As Morrison and Lissaraven underwent the transformation, the first of the harvester ships entered the system's outer reaches. Sarah split her time between coordinating planetary defenses and monitoring the genetic procedure. Both human and Astridian ships moved into defensive positions, their crews setting aside generations of difference in the face of a common enemy. But would it be enough? The answer came 16 hours later, when Morrison and Raven emerged from the chamber. They had changed in ways that defied explanation. Morrison stood nearly as tall as his Astridian partner now, his skin showing the first signs of bioluminescence. Raven's form had become more compact, gaining human adaptability while retaining Astridian strength. But the physical changes were nothing compared to what they could do together. The architect's gift was the ability to tap into the fundamental forces that shaped the universe itself. Together, they could manipulate energy and matter in ways that neither species could achieve alone. They weren't the only ones. Inspired by their success, other pairs of humans and Astridians entered the chamber, each emerging changed but unified. It was a revolution not just of society but of biology itself, exactly as the architects had planned. The harvesters arrived to find not a divided world ripe for conquest, but a unified force of transformed beings waiting for them. The battle that followed would be spoken of for generations to come. The hybrid defenders wielded powers that made even the advanced harvester technology seem primitive in comparison. Sarah watched from the Valiant's bridge as Morrison and Raven led the defense of their world. The ship's sensors could barely track the incredible energies being wielded below. The harvesters, for all their advanced technology, had never encountered anything like this unified force. "They're retreating," Rodriguez announced as the enemy fleet began to pull back. Multiple ships jumping to FTL. "They're running." But victory came with a price. The power unleashed during the battle had taken its toll on both the transformed and untransformed defenders. The surface of HD 249C bore scars that would take years to heal, and many brave souls had fallen in the defense of their world. In the battle's aftermath, as the survivors gathered to assess their losses and celebrate their survival, Sarah realized that there was no going back. Humanity and the Astridians had changed forever, becoming something new, something that fulfilled the architect's ancient vision. Raven herself approached Sarah in the council chamber, her once rigid posture now humbled by what she had witnessed. "We were wrong to resist change," she admitted, her skin showing patterns of regret and acceptance. "The architects knew what they were doing when they brought our peoples together." As the dust settled and reconstruction began, Sarah looked out over the transformed cityscape, where humans and Astridians worked together as equals, some changed by the chamber, others choosing to remain as they were but no less united in purpose. The true trial hadn't been the battle itself, but the choice to embrace change and face the unknown together. They had passed that test, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, other children of the architects waited to be discovered, and the harvesters would return, stronger and more prepared. But now, at least, they were ready. Together, 5 years after the battle of HD 249C, the planet had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. The scars of combat had healed, replaced by cities that blended human ingenuity with Astridian grace. Buildings that once towered beyond human scale now accommodated both species and their transformed hybrid children, a new generation that embodied the architect's vision of unity. Commander Sarah Chen, now Ambassador Chen, stood in the newly constructed Unity Chamber, where representatives from Earth and HD 249 gathered to shape the future of their joined civilizations. The chamber itself was a marvel of hybrid engineering, its walls embedded with both Astridian bioluminescent crystals and human holographic technology. "The first wave of colonists from Earth will arrive next month," she announced to the assembled council. 3,000 families, all volunteers, ready to begin the integration process. Raven, her skin shimmering with patterns of approval, nodded her massive head. "And our own people are prepared to welcome them." The success of the first transformations has eased many fears. The transformation process, refined since Morrison and Raven's pioneering procedure, had become a carefully regulated but increasingly common choice. Not everyone chose to undergo the change. Both species had learned to respect individual choice in all matters. But those who did form the backbone of a new society that bridged the gap between human and Astridian. Morrison and Lysera Venn had become legends, their successful union proving that the architect's plan was more than just theory. Their first child, a daughter named Aurora, represented something entirely new in the universe. Born with the height of an Astridian, the adaptability of a human, and abilities that belonged to neither species, she embodied the potential that lay in unity. The harvester threat remains, Sarah reminded the council, bringing up a holographic display of deep space monitoring stations. Our scouts have detected their activity in neighboring sectors. They're rebuilding, adapting, learning from their defeat. But this time, they were ready. The combined scientific knowledge of both species, enhanced by the architect's technology, had led to breakthroughs in defense and exploration. The Valiant, once Earth's most advanced vessel, now seemed primitive compared to the hybrid ships that patrolled the system. More importantly, the union of humans and Astridians had unlocked other secrets hidden in the prophecy chamber. Star maps revealed the locations of other civilizations created by the architects, worlds where similar chambers waited to be discovered. They weren't alone in the galaxy. They were part of a larger plan, a network of species designed to eventually come together. We've received responses from 3 potential contact sites, reported Dr. Helena Rodriguez, who had taken over much of Morrison's research. The patterns match what we found here. Civilizations on the brink of achieving space travel, each with their own unique genetic markers. The implications were staggering. The architects hadn't just created a pair of compatible species. They had seeded the galaxy with multiple civilizations, each carrying different pieces of a cosmic puzzle. The union of humans and Astridians was just the first step in a grand design that spanned the galaxy. In the residential districts below, life had found a new rhythm. Human children played alongside Astridian youngsters, their size differences no longer a barrier to friendship. Hybrid families created their own traditions, blending the best of both cultures. The fear and prejudice that had once threatened to tear them apart had been replaced by understanding and acceptance. Cora Venn, once the strongest voice against human-Astridian cooperation, had become one of its most passionate advocates. Her experience during a harvester attack had profoundly changed her perspective. Now she led educational initiatives, helping both species understand their shared heritage and destiny. The architects gave us a choice. She often told her students, her skin displaying patterns of wisdom gained through experience. They provided the potential, but it was our decision to embrace it, to overcome our fears and reach for something greater than ourselves. The prophecy chamber, now a center of ongoing research, continued to reveal new secrets. Each discovery confirmed what the architects had known millennia ago, that the strength of civilization lay not in isolation, but in unity, not in purity, but in diversity, not in fear, but in courage to embrace change. Sarah found Morrison and Lysera Venn in their laboratory late one evening, working on translations of newly discovered architect texts. Their daughter Aurora sat nearby, her hybrid form already taller than Sarah despite her young age, practicing the energy manipulation techniques that came naturally to her kind. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked Morrison quietly, watching his now transformed form move with the fluid grace of an Astridian, while retaining distinctly human features, taking that first step into the unknown. Morrison's skin flickered with patterns of contentment and purpose, an Astridian trait he had embraced fully. "How could I? We're part of something greater than ourselves, Sarah. The architects didn't just give us a gift. They gave us a mission." Lysera Venn moved to join them, her own form having found a perfect balance between human and Astridian traits. And that mission is just beginning. There are more worlds to contact, more pieces of the puzzle to find. The harvesters aren't the only threat out there. And the galaxy needs unity now more than ever. As if in response to her words, Aurora successfully manifested a complex energy pattern, her young face beaming with pride. In her, Sarah saw the future, not just of their two species, but of all the civilizations yet to join them. The legacy of two worlds had become the heritage of an entire galaxy. The sun set on HD 249K, its light catching the crystalline spires of the hybrid cities. Somewhere out there, other children of the architects waited to be discovered. Other pieces of a grand design waited to be understood. The journey that had begun with a simple signal from the stars had become something far greater, a testament to the power of unity, the strength of diversity, and the endless potential that lay in the courage to embrace change. Humanity had not just survived its first contact with an alien civilization. It had transcended it, becoming part of something greater than anyone could have imagined. And this was just the beginning.